Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now broadcasting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with the president of the California Tax Limitation Committee, Mike Alexander, and America's funniest reporter, Carl Kozlowski.
All right. All right, love that music. Gets me motivated here. All right, Mike Alexander here, Radio Free Los Angeles, our Sunday night edition, starting tonight at 8 o'clock and going till 9:30, and we hope you're going to join us. Do you have that telephone number handy, Jonathan?
Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. 866-870-5752.
All right, yeah. Sully, his mic is not live, but we'll give you that number. Okay, go ahead. You want to give that number again, Jonathan?
Yeah, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. The number is 866-870-5752.
There we go. You got that down. And Jonathan Wilson is here tonight. Welcome, Jonathan.
Good to be here.
All right, we've got lots in store for you here tonight. Carl Kozlowski is off tonight and next week. He's out of town on a gig, which is great for him. And if you're listening in tonight, Carl, hello. We look forward to hearing from you. Good luck on what you're doing. We're going to cover a lot of things here tonight. First of all, we're going to talk about today. The big news is today is April 15th. Your taxes are not going to be due until Tuesday. That is, your filing won't be due until Tuesday the 17th. But April 15th is always tax day. And this is always a terrible day. Lucy, I'm getting some... Okay, I was getting a little bit of echo. Sorry about that, folks. In any event, today's tax day, 2018, and a country that was founded on no taxation without representation. That is, they didn't want high taxes and fees and runaway government without having a say in it. Well, we're in not much better position than our founding fathers and mothers were back in the day. We have a runaway government. And on this day, April 15, 2015, we have nothing but debts and deficits as far as the eye can see. We have spent a lot of time here over the last several months with you, and thank you for your patronage and for joining in and listening to us. But this is a terrible tale that we have to tell, and it isn't just high taxes at the federal level. Those clowns run up $1 trillion deficit at the same time that tax revenues are at the highest level ever. It is popular among conservatives and Republicans to talk about how Donald Trump cut taxes. Well, with all due respect to our president, he didn't cut taxes, he cut tax rates. Now, that is a very, very good thing. As a matter of fact, taxes did not go down. Taxes are up. Revenue is up. Government is bigger than ever. Mostly because of the actions of a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate led by Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. Of course, Paul Ryan, he's done the dirty deed. Now he's headed out of town, headed down to K Street to collect his pension. And he'll go down there and he'll continue to peddle political influence, just like that idiot Boehner. Did you hear about Boehner this week?
I didn't.
Yeah, well, every once in a while, this guy surfaces like flotsam and jetsam at the top of sewer water. And this time it turns out that he is now on the board of directors of some marijuana operation.
Oh, I did hear about that.
Yeah. So now he's the darling of the press because he's really gotten up to speed, and I guess he started to see dope in a new light.
I guess so.
Yeah. And so, we got an old dope arguing for selling new dope in a new way. So God bless you, Boehner. But there was another guy that did very little to, if anything, to cut back the government. And worse yet, they trash the efforts of everybody else who tries to do it. Now, we've had that same experience here in Southern California. Now, my greatest fear on this program is that I succeed in sounding like an angry accountant. And when I mentioned that to somebody here this week, they said, well, aren't you? Well, I'm not an accountant, but I sure as hell am angry about all this stuff because it's not working. And when you look at these cities out there, we're going to talk about Sierra Madre. By the way, the utility users tax repeal measure went down to defeat, but we're going to talk about the victories that came out of that campaign and the many positive things. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. But the fact is that a small city of a little over 10,000 people had managed to run up a debt of over $40 million that they can't pay. And sooner or later, we're going to have to be taxed for it. So here we are at the federal level. Everybody complains routinely about these federal deficits as far as the eye can see. And I think that other thing that Boehner said, and I just want to scream when I hear guys like Boehner talking about it, but he was right, because this past week he talked about the impact of higher interest rates. So for the last several years, certainly since 2008, interest rates internationally, and of course the money market is international by definition, they've been at historic lows. So it has permitted government at all levels, state, federal, and local, to borrow money really cheap. So Boehner, gets up and talking up his new membership on the dope selling corporation there, and while he's talking, he warns about the inevitable rise in interest rates. So when that happens, the percentage of our national debt, of our budget, that's going to have to be allocated to the payment of debt is going to soar. So all of these budgets have expanded to the point where we really cannot possibly pay these debts off in a reasonable way, and yet they continue to jack them up. And this is part of the backstory with China, who holds a lot of our debt. Now, I think we've got a lot more leverage over them than they have over us, but still in all, last time I checked, China holds over $900 billion. I think it might even be over $1 trillion in debt. If someone wants to text me or email me or call me with the right number, we'd be glad to put you on the line. But that is one hell of a lot of debt to owe under any circumstances. Now, at the federal level, you come right on out here to the state level. Right here in the state of California, CalPERS, that's our California pension system here in so-called CalPERS, that program alone is probably underwater by about $1 trillion. And that's not counting the University of California retirement system and not counting CalSTRS, that's the California State Retirement System. And it's also not counting a number of independent programs that are not in CalPERS. For example, LaSierra, which is the Los Angeles County Retirement System, and other similar systems throughout the state. So all of these public services that are supposed to be so great, I don't know how great they are, but they sure are expensive. And we've run up here in our state over $1 trillion worth of debt. So you see, it is not just the federal government that's running up the debts. It's our local and state politicians that do other things that are debts just as assuredly as borrowing money and failing to balance the budget. These budgets are not balanced at all. And yet we, in the past week, and I'm going to start talking in a second here about Sierra Madre, but just in the past week, we experienced politicians on the city council vaguely referring to the pension debt as a pension problem, without admitting that they've basically been running a city on deficit financing. And that city is now currently being financed by, in effect, borrowing money from their employee pension program. When I say in effect, they're not actually borrowing from the pension plan, but they haven't actually paid the amount of money that they really owe. They haven't even paid CalPERS phony number. So on tax day 2018, we have a lot of work to do. There's plenty of work to be done here at the local level, in the state, in the counties, and in the cities. So please don't think that there's nothing for you to do because the federal government is out of control or beyond your ability here in California to influence, you think. The fact is that you can have an impact right here in the state and the local areas. And bear in mind also that whatever it is that the federal government spends, the cities and states spend that much money over again. So it is not a wise thing to ignore state and local spending because you think it's smaller. It's not. Collectively, nationwide, state and local spending equals that of the feds. But anyway, enough on that for right now. Let's talk about the UUT. Jonathan, you've been point man out there in Sierra Madre. Give us an update on what happened in that utility user tax repeal.
Well, we didn't get Measure D passed, but we consider it a huge win for taxpayers because basically we brought the pension issue to the forefront of the conversation in Sierra Madre. And I believe most residents in Sierra Madre are now informed of the city's precarious financial situation. So hopefully, going forward, the city will work with the residents and the citizens to fix this problem and to rein in their spending.
Right.
Yeah. but we're not holding our breath.
Well and optimistically stated.
Yeah.
Right. But we did get some reaction out of those people over there, and some comments from the Mountain View News, and you know when I was speaking with you the other day, these guys had different things to say at the end than they said in the beginning.
Yeah, I think they've now acknowledged that the pension debt is a problem. Councilman Harabedian wrote this very thoughtful piece in the Mountain Views News, and he acknowledged that it's a problem, but it's going to require innovative solutions. So
you mean not cash,
right?
Innovative solutions,
right?
Okay.
So we're waiting to see what those innovative solutions will be,
right?
But it's a big win that the city council has acknowledged this, and that the citizens of Sierra Madre are now informed.
Yeah,
they didn't want to hear. A lot of them didn't want to hear what we had to say.
Well, I'll go back into the vote count here in a minute. We're coming up on a break. That telephone number, Jonathan, is
866-870-5752.
And go to our website at radiofreelosangeles.net, all spelled out, and click that contributor button to help us keep citizen-sponsored radio on the air.
If you like what you're hearing and would like to support Radio Free Los Angeles and the California Tax Limitation Committee, please call area code 626-792-1772, 626-792-1772, or kindly visit our website, CATLC.net, CATLC.net. You can also watch Radio Free Los Angeles on Facebook Live at radiofreela.us.
If you'd like to talk with Radio Free Los Angeles, the phone lines are wide open. 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. We're live, local, and here to talk with you. 866-870-KRLA.
All right, back with you, Mike Alexander, Radio Free Los Angeles. back with my happy companion here, Jonathan Wilson of the California Tax Limitation Committee. Jonathan, I want to continue our discussion of Sierra Madre out there. Now, what was the actual vote count?
Now, the vote count, we received 405 votes, which is not great, and
Right.
it's down from the last election. And I believe the no votes on Measure D were around 1,800
Right.
or so. Yeah.
Total of 2,200. Now, that sounds like, and when you hear this this vote result recounted by the opposition, you're going to hear a lot of things. The first thing they'll say is that it went down 5-1, and they will ignore the fact. They'll come back with something like 70% or 80% of Sierra Madre residents approved the tax or whatever. Well, they didn't. This reflects only the people who voted. And one of the terrible things that has happened throughout the state of California here in our state elections, our county elections, and our local elections is very low voter turnout. So we had 2,200 people in Sierra Madre vote, but I think we have over 5,000 registered voters in that city.
That's correct.
So we have under 40% turnout, or maybe roughly 40% turnout, and very few people are deciding the fate of the city.
Well, what's interesting also is to compare it to the last presidential election, the turnout in Sierra Madre.
Yes.
You had 2,084 votes to Trump.
Yeah.
And then Clinton received 3,919 votes.
Right.
So that's quite that's a big turnout.
It is.
Yeah. So this was not a very good turnout at all.
No.
And I think the no on Measure D really got out their vote.
Yeah, it helped. Yeah. Our own efforts helped them. And our purpose there was always, of course, to repeal the utility users tax on the theory that they're spending too much money and citizens are taxed too much. And yes, returning that $2.6 million to the citizens so that it can be taken out of the unproductive private sector and put back into the private productive sector.
Right.
That's always important. Taxes are never irrelevant. They always have a terrible negative effect on the economy, especially if it goes beyond the reasonable cost of core government services. And paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for city mismanagers and overpaid fire and police, that's not a good expenditure of political money, especially because they're not paying the real cost of it. So the second purpose of our using the utility user tax repealed is to raise the subject of fiscal responsibility.
Exactly. And I think we did a very good job of doing that.
No question.
Councilman Herabedian, I think, sort of missed the point of our mission.
Yeah.
I think he simplified our argument, thinking that we thought that just repealing the tax was going to solve the problem.
Right.
But that's just the beginning.
Or at least he was willing to characterize our position as that.
Yeah.
And in fact, our real position was, and pay attention, Mr. Herabedian, our real position was, in the position was made crystal clear by your lawyer, any shift in your revenues or your expenses means the city goes out of business. Mm-hmm. Any shift. So if the revenues go down $2.6 million, or your expenses go up a few $1 million, your city is out of business. That's the point, and I'm glad your lawyer agrees with us.
I'd say that's precarious.
Yeah.
That's not a good place to be.
No, it's not. And the city council out there, and all of them, have presided over this. That number is not real. And, it's interesting, Jonathan, I picked up an article. Oh, man. If any of you out there are drinking anything, please put your beverages down. And if you're eating anything, please chew it and swallow it so you don't choke when I tell you. But at any rate, earlier today there was an article. I don't know if it was linked to the Drudge Report or what, but there's some guy in the state of California that is collecting a $76,000 pension. as in $76,000 per month.
Wow.
C.
Who is that? Do we
C
know?
is Verdad. I don't know what the guy's name is, but apparently he is a retired, and a very nicely retired, eye surgeon. This somehow ended up on the state payroll and got paid all kinds of money. And so now we're paying this guy upwards of $1 million a year in retirement. I have no idea how he is, but this is crazy. It's crazy time. When I looked at that article, it linked to a few other articles by the New York Times. And you know, it's interesting, the Los Angeles Times, the New York Times, that you really can't count on to do much. Every once in a while, as the expression goes, commit random acts of journalism.
Right.
And one of the random acts was a review of the California pension system. It goes back a few years. They used an expression which is absolutely accurate and makes our point for us. And they characterized the state of California as basically keeping two sets of books. Now, what does two sets of books mean? It means that CalPERS has one set of numbers that it publishes for the public, one set of numbers about how far behind the cities are on keeping the pension commitments. They've got one number that they publish to the cities and to the public.
Right.
But internally, they have another set of numbers. And when you try to leave the system, they tell you what that real number is.
Ah.
Right. Now, why
It's a shell game.
It is. And that number, in fact, we had that argument over in the city of Glendale when we had the utility user tax repeal initiative on the ballot over there a few years ago. The city attorney, or at least their counsel, went into court and tried to get our statement about the real value, the real number of their pension deficit based upon market analysis. They tried to get that number bounced because they said it wasn't real, and they said, oh, that's an exit number, that's not real. Well, au contraire. Now, what does an exit number mean out there, everybody? It means that CalPERS in many ways functions like an insurance company. An insurance company that's picked up your obligations. So you've handed the money, they're administering your pension system, they are paying out your employees based upon how long they worked, based upon their age, based upon their sex, all the things that affect the calculation of life expectancies. So they pick up that obligation. And like any other insurance company, they make an intelligent, informed guess about how long your employees are going to live based upon the amount of money that they've earned up through today and based upon their eligibility for pension benefits. Very, very basic. Mm-hmm. But they also have to do something else. And that is, they know that they don't have enough cash on hand right now to pay those benefits, so they have to make guesses about how those investments are going to do in the future.
Right.
And guess what? When they're taking over that obligation from you, if you go to them and say, look, we want out of the system, we want to pay you off, and we want you to take it from here. We want you to assume all of this risk. We want you to pay out all that money under the system. Well, when you go to them for that, guess what? That's a different number. And that number is much closer to what an insurance company would charge you, because they say, hey, look, if we're going to take over this obligation and absorb it for you and pay them all off and so forth, we're going to have to make sure that we have a margin, a safety margin. And how about this 7.5% assumption? Oh, well, they'll laugh at you.
Right.
As if you had the Easter Bunny in the room with you. It's crazy. So they give you that real number. So the people that know the real numbers are actually CalPERS, but they permit the cities to play along with them with this little fantasy that these investments are going to grow at a much higher rate. In other words, as the New York Times put it so eloquently, the state of California, CalPERS, and yes, the city of Sierra Madre, the city of San Marino, and you, Mr. Garabedian, are basically keeping two sets of books. Right. And it's high time that you face what? Read on the back. Innovative Solutions. I've got them on page 4 of the California Taxpayer Gazette, Sierra Madre edition. Take a look at it, and if you're wrong, call us in. Mr. Garabedian, the number is?
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you, Councilman. The number is 866-870-5752.
Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now broadcasting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with the president of the California Tax Limitation Committee, Mike Alexander, and America's funniest reporter, Carl Kozlowski.
All right, welcome back. Mike Alexander here, Radio Free Los Angeles with Jonathan Wilson.
Howdy.
Back for a second and a half here. Our lines are open. We really want to hear from you, especially from Mr. Harabedian. Somebody said I might have said Garabedian. If I did, I apologize. It's Mr. Harabedian, who is distinguished councilman from the city of Sierra Madre, where, as I pointed out, they're keeping two sets of books out there on what the real numbers are. And I'm going to go back into that. But if you have comments on this or anything you want to talk about when it comes to big government, free men, free markets, or limited constitutional government, our telephone number is 866-870-5752.
And visit radiofreelosangeles.net to give us a contribution. We definitely need the support. This is citizen-sponsored radio, so we rely on contributions from listeners.
Yeah. And we want to thank all those who contributed to us recently. We've had a lot of tremendous support. Earl in Sierra Madre, and a lady who in Sierra Madre who will remain nameless. We know she is, and of course we track all of that, but she'd rather we didn't see her name online on the air.
And Jan in San Gabriel.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, just this week signed up for $20 a week. So
perfect.
That really helps.
And we're going to be talking more about the relationship between money and politics, which you've heard ad nauseum, but I'm going to give you a different take on this, and I hope an understanding on what we actually do in that area. But first of all, Jonathan, you wanted to fit. And by the way, I know that you guys are maybe out there saying, enough on Sierra Madre already. Haven't we heard enough? Remember what we've said here. These issues affect us all, and everything we're talking about in Sierra Madre is, with rare exception, a problem in your city. And one of the things we want to do is to get you to pay attention to your city. You want to do something interesting? Go to pensiontracker.org and look up your city and get a load of what their pension debt. Go to transparentcalifornia.com, look up your city, and hit it for a list of all of their positions and their salaries, and prepare to projectile you-know-what. Yeah. It is just going to astound you. Those are the two principal sources of our information.
Yeah, and it's just really a question of fairness. You look at these numbers and you look at what the average citizen earns. It's just not fair.
That's right.
Yeah.
And all of these commitments are being made in your name through the political process. And one thing that I think that most conservatives and other people who aren't necessarily conservative, but like all of you are listening, most fundamentally concerned with good government. With preserving our cities. Sierra Madre is a wonderful city. All these cities here are great cities, and they do, on balance, a good job of providing fire and safety and other basic services. But they do so very much more than that. All of these cities are engaged in activities that they have no business in and they can't afford. And when we go back, for example, to the city of Sierra Madre, not unlike all these other cities, they. I think you mentioned in the article, what was Harbedian saying?
Well, it's a very well written article. He's obviously a very intelligent guy.
Yeah.
But he said Sierra Madre is not immune to the pension crisis.
Well, it's not a virus,
right? But he says our pension liability is largely funded, 75%.
Yeah.
And that their liability is $10.7 million.
Yeah, well, that's a crock. Yeah, 10.7 is what it was as of the end of 15 or 16. That number's climbing as we speak because that was a number that was frozen in time by CalPERS, and that obligation was understated the day that that they made it. And yet the cities are carrying this phony number on their books, and it's misleading citizens into believing that we're okay. In other words, we'll be all right. I'm comfortable with my current level of taxation, so no reason to vote myself any tax relief. What you don't know is what's coming your way, and that obligation is increasing as we speak. And the real number there, calculated by CalPERS just as well as by the Stanford Institute, that number's closer to $40 million. And it's $40 million that you don't have, Mr. Harbedian. It's not well managed, and that $40 million is not susceptible of innovative solutions, quote unquote. Unless by innovative solutions you mean that the California Supreme Court is going to let you renegotiate those obligations, and we're hoping for that decision. And unless by innovative decisions what you mean is bankruptcy, which I heartily recommend. It's a good way to get them underdone, but to deal with those obligations. But you're going to have to do something else to get these salaries under control. Now, what has happened this past week, folks, and I really want to have a heart-to-heart talk with you conservatives out there, and I think conservatives are what mostly listen to this program. Excuse me. I think we have many of the opposition that have started to listen, and to you I say welcome, because these issues that we are talking about are not necessarily conservative or liberal issues, because if you're broke and in debt, there's no such thing as a conservative or a liberal negative bank balance. When you're broke, there's no R or D behind your name in bankruptcy court. The creditors don't care what your political beliefs or orientation is. All they want to know is whether you got the money and what you're going to do with the property if they got to take it and sell it. And so all of us, whether we're Republican, Democrat, conservative, or liberal, we all have a vested interest in living in quality communities, and the quality in that community is about to disappear when that check starts to come due, the bill starts coming due. But what you need to realize out there, all of you conservatives, is that these bad things come about as part of a political process. I've explained patiently to you that the nature, principia politica, the first nature of business, the first job of government, is to grow itself. And the second principle of principia politica is that each and every public employee is a paid, partisan, political activist. They are there to help carry out job number one, which is to grow government. That's how they get paid. You in your profession, I in mine, during the week, we do that to put money in our pocket. We're there to constantly grow our business, make it more profitable, expand it, get more customers inside the door. Why would you expect the government is any different way? That's what they do. But what's really different about what government does is that they achieve all of the growth of their business through a political process, through the exercise of political influence. But it isn't just political influence, knowing a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. or kicking in a few dollars into a campaign because you think you might have the ear of the city council or the city manager. No. That's not how it works. It's a process called elections. So they have an election, you elect these people, and they go off and they create these obligations in your name. And whether you voted for them or didn't, whether you showed up at the polls or you didn't, you are responsible for that outcome. And those public employees to whom you now owe collectively throughout the state $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion, who knows, they expect you to pay that because that's an obligation. You made the commitment. They're going to come back and they're going to beat you up with your vote or your lack of a vote, whatever it was. They're going to beat you up. You had your chance. You elected these knuckleheads to the city council or to the state legislature or to the national legislature called Congress. These decisions were made in your name. Now you're going to have to pay the bill. Now, because it's a political process, and stay with me out there, stay awake, because they're hoping you're not paying attention to me. There's 1.8 state, federal, and local, 1.8 million state, federal, and local employees in the state of California. And between them, every year, they pay well above $1 million in dues. And a huge portion of that money, that $1 to $1.5 billion every year, maybe $3 billion every 2 years, a huge part of that money is available for political purposes because their jobs and their livelihood depends upon winning elections. You don't win, you don't eat. All right, now, I'm going to continue the discussion here after this break. We'll come back and continue to talk about politics and money in politics, your money in politics. Our number is 866-870-5752.
If you like what you're hearing and would like to support Radio Free Los Angeles and the California Tax Limitation Committee, please call area code 626-792-1772, 626-792-1772, or kindly visit our website, CATLC.net, CATLC.net. You can also watch Radio Free Los Angeles on Facebook Live at radiofreela.us.
If you'd like to talk with Radio Free Los Angeles, the phone lines are wide open. 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. We're live, local, and here to talk with you. 866-870-KRLA.
All right, Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, back with you here for the for the second half hour of Radio Free Los Angeles. Our lines are wide open at 866-870-5752. I want to continue our discussion there about how politics really works in the city or the county and so forth. But let's just talk about these cities. They have notoriously low voter turnout. In fact, the statewide turnout, folks, in the last gubernatorial election, that would be 2014, the statewide voter turnout was only 25%, if you can believe it.
Wow.
And that was, Jerry Brown being elected for the umpteenth time as governor. Nobody showed up. Now, we could talk about that phenomenon to what accounted for it, but all you need to know is that only 25% of the registered voters showed up, and not all adults, not all citizens, not all persons eligible to vote in the state of California are even registered. So we have these decisions being made in our society at a very low very low participation rate, and the people in these cities, the public employees, the unions, all these people, they are acutely aware of this fact. They know exactly how it works, and all of these decisions are and whatnot are usually brought about by the movement of a few hundred votes. Over in Sierra Madre, the variation was a little bit greater. If all of the citizens had gotten equally involved in that process and been aware of it, the outcome might have been different. And a good friend of mine, Ed Ring of the California Policy Center, he suggested, well, maybe you guys might have had a different outcome if you just tried to roll back from 10% to 8% or 6% or whatever. All right, fair point, Ed. Yeah, it doesn't mean that the people agree with the high taxes. They may not have agreed with the particular solution. But the fact is that not everybody showed up. So you see that our top number one problem in the state of California is people who don't show up to vote. So it's not necessarily what the taxers and spenders do. Those people advocate in a large government. It's not just what they do. It's what we don't do on our side, period. We don't vote in sufficient numbers, and then we complain about the outcomes. So how in the world do you think that these people ran up a savings plan of $40 million in a city 3 square miles? So I'm going to go into some other cities and show you billion-dollar market debts in relatively small cities. For example, El Segundo's got, I think, north of $1 billion that they owe their pension plan down there. This goes on city after city, and that's not even the state. It's not even the feds. Mm-hmm. So it's not what they do as much as what we don't do on our side. Now, I'm going to return to that topic, but right now I have Tara from Torrance, who has some revenue ideas, some revenue-reducing ideas. Tara, are you there?
No, so sorry if I may correct you. That not revenue-reducing idea is to whatever revenue the city collects, how they proportion that budget and spend it. Now they budget and spend it by dollars for this task and that task and that task. Instead of doing that, instead of taking a dollar number, they should do by percentage. Say, we vote 17.9% for junior schools or whatever, or for street cleaning. Then they will never run out of money because it's a percentage of whatever revenue they collect.
Right. Okay.
So that's a radical idea because how do you? It's a part of that is human nature.
Yeah.
Human nature,
as you said, what? By the way, what was your name? Did I get your name right, Tara?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Great. I thought it was a lady. Okay, Tara. Your point is well taken. My only response to that would be if we had the kind of political influence and control to accomplish that, we probably wouldn't have the problem in the first instance. To get to where you're talking about is going to require a tremendous amount of political organization and persuading electing qualified people who share our ideas to start with. What is lacking is not a proper budgetary process, but their willingness to pass laws and taxes and to create budgets to accomplish other outcomes. They're not really there to run it well. Now there's some exceptions in the water departments and the people run the streets. There's some very good people in there that keep our streets working and the water and the sewers. I grant you that. But at the budgetary level, the idea there is to grow their business and enterprise and to reward everybody. And the deficits, hey, those are fun. They'll just claim a budget shortfall and raise taxes and go government in that fashion. So I don't think it's lack of a disciplined budgetary process, but an undisciplined political process that's designed to grow government.
Well, I think you hit the root of the problem.
Yes. And
the problem is the humankind and the human nature.
Yes.
So
yes.
Everybody's 100% same,
Right.
10% are crooks, 25% won't care, 10% care. Who cares for them,
Yeah, the problem is those 10% crooks, they'll work for government, and they're on our payroll. Tara, I want to thank you very much for calling in. Don't be a stranger. Please call in again. We need your participation. I now have Michael from Sherman Oaks, who would like to talk to us about how to get corrupt government to be more responsible. Michael, fire away.
If I were running for city council, I would go after Paul Koretz, who I've known for 40 years, and other politicians, and I would throw a challenge out to them to reduce all taxes by 10% and get 10% more productivity from the DWP, the teachers, all of the unions that are making pension, that are going to drive Los Angeles and California into a guaranteed bankruptcy in the next 15 years. This is not hyperbole.
No.
This is something that Mayor Reardon said 10 years ago.
Oh yeah,
and it will happen. It's not if, it's when.
Oh, that's right.
And I would challenge these people, and because they have pandered to raise their pensions, to raise their pay. A DWP worker getting $100,000 a year to hold up a sign that says "slow, stop" or "slow" or "stop"
right.
is ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, Michael, you've hit it right on the head. Let me make a couple of comments in response. First of all, I'm excited that you called that the issues that we are talking about are resonating with you and others out there in the audience. We're getting a lot of feedback through various means letting us know that the public does want to hear about these things and hear about them in the way in which we're talking about them. Your passion and your anger is justified. My first comment would be on the reduction of taxes. They're not going to do that. That's why you and I have to sponsor measures to repeal taxes. And fortunately, under the California Constitution, although the rules might be a little bit different for a charter city like Los Angeles, but basically 5% of the number of people voted for governor in that jurisdiction can sign a petition and challenge any tax fee, charge, or assessment. In the city of Los Angeles, I'm trying to remember what the utility user tax collects each year, but I think it might be $600 million.
Yeah, you're right. It's around $600 million.
$600 million.
Hold you by your ankles and shake you, and that's what the percentage is.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Whatever you got left up, then they go after your couch and dig for the change in there. These people are never done.
Then Brown goes after it in gas and car registration fees.
That's right.
Train to nowhere.
Yeah, correct. So we have to say no to government at every level. And by the way, I do, of course, recall Mayor Reardon's warning about the pension system. And I think he said, hey, look, when we hit 29 or 30%, the city's done for. And I think they're almost at that number right now. Now, it's interesting that when Reardon was mayor, he never made any proposals to get this done. This is going to have to be done at a statewide level. We citizens are the ones who are going to have to do it, Michael. And so I'm hoping we can count on your support. Now, with regard to efficiency, I don't think that we'll ever get efficiency because the system is not intended to be efficient. It's designed to hire more people, pay them more money, and this train to nowhere is, as a matter of fact, doing everything that it was intended to do, and that is to transfer money from your pocket to theirs. That's all it was ever intended to do.
Well, we have to do what some of these special interest groups doing. And special interests, I would call them the right for same-sex marriages. They go after one issue at a time,
right,
like a dog after a bone. I'm not saying that's not right for same-sex to get marriage, but there's so many issues. Here, one issue, Mike, would be the statute of limitations on criminality of elected and appointed officials is only 3 years.
Right.
I propose that because by the time you find out that they're criminals like Patrick Lynch from the Coliseum Commission, it was 15 years that you found out he was taking handouts and bribes.
Right.
I would just go after that one issue, because there are so many, and raise the statute of limitations, not give it a cutesy name like DACA. Well, the Dreamers.
How about gotcha?
You know,
Hey, Michael, I
Yes.
got a break coming up. I want to thank you for calling in. Call us again. Great call, my friend.
That was a great call.
Fantastic. Call us at 866-870-5752.
Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now broadcasting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles, with the president of the California Tax Limitation Committee, Mike Alexander, and America's funniest reporter, Carl Kozlowski.
All right, back with you, Mike Alexander and
Jonathan Wilson.
Hey, great.
I'm not Carl Kozlowski, and I'm not a funny reporter, but
This was a pop quiz. You know, we're going to continue our discussion of tax issues and big government issues here, but I want to pause and take a few minutes to remark on the passing of a couple of very important people in their own right. And the first one, little remarked upon, is Art Bell. This is talk radio.
oh,
So
really?
yeah, if anybody listens to talk radio, they got to know Art Bell.
Yeah.
And Art Bell was on, midnight to 6 in the morning or something like
Yeah,
that.
what was the name of his show? I can't remember.
I don't know. I'm ashamed that I don't.
Yeah.
I did not listen to Art Bell. But his concentration on UFOs and the occult and the very unusual was unique. It was American talk radio. It's uniquely American. My mother-in-law used to listen to that stuff all the time, and I've listened to it any number of times at night. There's nothing else on, so you tune in, see what Art Bell and his callers have to say, and he was a lot of fun and a very, very successful broadcaster. Well, he passed away today, I think, over in Nevada, and he will certainly be missed. Now, there was another guy who's famous for other reasons. And our engineer here, Sullivan, I think, has a few outtakes here. We're going to play them, see if you can guess and see who this guy is. He just died today.
You will not laugh. You will not cry. You will learn by the numbers. I will teach you. Now get up. Get on your feet. Let me see your war face. Sir! You got a war face? Ah! That's a war face. Now let me see your war face. Ah!
Is there another tape? That's all I got.
And
That's
there's
enough.
no profanity.
No profanity. Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, our engineer went through 3 hours of outtakes and videos for the passing of Gunny R. Lee Ermey. Gunny Ermey passed away today at age 74 in Palmdale, California, of pneumonia, complications of pneumonia, and it reminds me of General Patton, who always said that that would be that'd be what he died of, and he did die of pneumonia because he was immobile, unable to clear his lungs. And Gunny Ermey passed away, and any of us who are in the Marine Corps know and love Gunny Ermey. We know exactly who he is. We all had him. And we've experienced the wrath of a drill instructor, just as nasty as he was, and on most days even nastier. And these, the outtake there, what you heard, the recording was from his most famous movie, which was Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket, and I think it came out in 1978. And for those of us who have been through Marine Corps boot camp, one of our challenges when we're asked about it is to try to communicate to other normal people what it was like. And it's a unique experience. There's no other service that is like it. So when this Full Metal Jacket movie came out, I thought, all right, well, I'll take a shot at it. And I took my wife to see it at a theater in Westwood back in the day. And, of course, it was an extraordinary experience. I didn't much care for the second half of the movie, but I loved the first half of the movie, which is famous. And there was Arlie Ermey, holding forth as, I think, as Sergeant Stafford. I forget what his name was in the movie. But the one thing that I recall most from it was not just the routines in the barracks, but in the audience, which was pretty full. When Ermey was up there going after all the recruits during boot camp, when something was about to happen, there were several people in the audience who would laugh before it happened. Now, those were the Marines, because we could see the buildup. We knew that this was a trigger. Isn't that what the libs call it now, a trigger?
You could see the punchline coming.
Oh, you could see it coming. Yeah. The punch coming. This is my rifle. This is my gun. This one's for killing. This one's for fun. That's about as clean as we could get it. And of course, when I asked Sullivan here to dig up something, he couldn't play it back because there'd be too many beeps. You never recognize it. So that's Gunny Ermey. Gunny, God bless, Godspeed, and Semper Fi. We'll miss you. All right, now. Back to some of these other things. I want to continue my conversation about why we're in this situation. I went to the Claremont Institute last night. They had their annual Churchill dinner, and it's a very distinguished organization. I'm very proud to be part of it. Jonathan Wilson was there with me, and we had a wonderful speaker, Senator Tom Cotton, that we'll talk more about here in a little bit. But it was remarkable, the focus that there was on what they think the problems of the country are. And they tend to conceive of our problems as ideological, or problems that ultimately can be addressed through argumentation or various efforts to take back academia or to take back the culture, these kinds of things. I've been at this political business reluctantly for 9 years. On April 11th, just this past week, Jonathan and I, who were co-founders of TPAC, back on April, we had our first big event on April 11th, 2009. We've been at this for 9 years. We began our 10th year the other day. And over this period of time, we've actually learned something about politics. And what you think is wrong with our country is probably accurate as far as it goes. But almost every discussion overlooks the real problem and the real solution. And what's the real problem? Those 1.8 million federal, state, and local employees, and the people in business and others who get checks from them, plus their family, these people are invested literally in the growth of government. They actually write checks, whereas conservatives don't. So in the state of California, the 350,000 members of the California Teachers Association, each of them writes a check for $20 a week, $1,000 a year. That starts the first day that they start to teach, the first day they go in to fill out the employment application. Now, these young teachers don't have any money. They just got out of school. They don't have any more money coming out of school than you did. They've got a used car. They've got clothes that need replacement, like all of ours needed replacement when we got out of college. But when they show up for that job, their first teaching job, with that teacher credential in their hot little hand, the first person that they're going to meet, maybe the only person that they're going to talk to that day, is that union rep. And they're going to sign the papers, and then they're going to sign that check, that promise to pay $20 a week for the next 30 years. And that's what they do. Those 350,000 teachers, collectively pay out $1,000 each, $350 million per year. That's just the California Teachers Association. They write that check whether they've got the money or not. $20 a week, $1,000 a year. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of California politics and really the story of national politics. They are the left. They are big government. They write a check for $20 a week, and frankly, you don't. If every person who calls himself or herself a conservative in the state of California, and there's probably 4 million of us, if every one of us was writing a check for $1,000 a year, if even 100,000 people were writing a check for $1,000 a year, $100 million, we get rid of these people, we get rid of this problem. If I had $100 million a year coming in, that's just as simple as that. Now let me review, because I don't need cockamamie calls on the phone say, oh, we got to take the culture back. Oh, we need to reach out to youth. Oh, we need to have tenure limits for these left-wing professors in academia. Whatever it is that is annoying you. No, sir. No, ma'am. It's none of those things. The problem is they're writing a check for $20 a week. The problem is you're not. They're writing checks. You're not. Now, it's no more complicated than that. You are not writing checks to the right people. Now, every once in a while, someone in California will come out from under the ether and send money to Mitch McConnell, no less, or send money to a national presidential campaign. That is the wrong thing to do. You have to invest in the initiative process. Now, if there's somebody else out there doing what we're doing, fine, send them the $20 a week. But if you're not sending us $20 a week, you are the problem. And I mean that. You are the problem. We're just not writing those checks, and we have to build an organization that is based upon that premise. And when 100,000 Californians are writing a check for $20 a week, and when 1 million Californians are writing a check for at least $20 a month and putting into the hands of somebody who knows how to make war on these people, then by God, we'll start getting some results. But until that time, you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you got. Now, that's just what. Now, if you disagree, please call me and tell me how it's different. If you have a different plan, please call and tell me, but please don't fail to address the major point. Now, there's one guy we hear from regularly. He's got a plan. Mike of El Segundo wants to talk about how to build on a base of supporters. Mike, go.
Thank you. Okay, don't view this election loss as the end, because it is not. I'm sure you have lists of your supporters, your located votes that were going to vote your way in this last election. And what you do is you keep organizing, come back. You campaign not just election time, but you campaign between elections. That's what Democrats do. They campaign, 365 days a year, every year. They don't wait till it's campaign season. And we have to do the same thing. So, as you know, to win elections, you have to, educate the public and the voters. You have to locate your supporters. You have to get them out to vote on election day. That goes back to the days of the founding.
Mike, of course you're right. But let me tell you, I've been at that for a long time. And if there's one area in which I have failed, and I've resolved not to do this again, if there's one area in which I have failed, it has been my failure in the past to communicate to the voters what I just communicated to them. They got to write that check, Mike. And if the average citizen continues to treat this as my problem or my hobby or your candidacy, right? If they don't see that it's their political problem, it's their citizenship at stake and their duty to get these things done, then you and I are engaged in a hopeless task.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I've always had a problem running for public office because I've always had a hard time asking other people for their hard-earned money. But then I learned the alternative is a lot worse. And by the way, Bruce Hershenson had the same problem. I've met with him and talked with him, and he had the exact same problem. He found it very hard to ask other people for money. But in order to save our country and save our state and save basically Western civilization, because America has been propping that up, we have to be able to ask people to contribute time, money, donate resources they have that we can use. We've got to get more people involved.
Exactly. And we have to focus those resources into an organization that is going to use them intelligently. And here in the state of California, the Republican Party is not that institution. It's dead. And
That's
even
unfortunate. Exactly.
Yeah.
You are so correct on that, because we should be having massive voter registration efforts, just like the Democrats do. They even register illegal aliens to vote. They've been doing that at least since 1994 that I'm aware of.
Yes.
So we have to at least register American citizens who are eligible to vote. And we should be doing that. In fact, we should be viewing, just like if someone's, say, Christian, I believe they tithe, whatever it is, 10%, maybe the church, whatever. People have to get used to the idea of donating a certain amount of their time to participate in voter registration, a certain amount of their money, and to get on the phones with their friends. There's a lot of, as you mentioned, a lot of people are not registered to vote who are eligible. So we need to get them registered to vote.
Michael, thanks again for calling. It's always a great call. We're up on a break now. Look forward to talking again in the future. We'll be back after the break with Government Grifter of the Week awards.
If you like what you're hearing and would like to support Radio Free Los Angeles and the California Tax Limitation Committee, please call area code 626-792-1772, 626-792-1772, or kindly visit our website, CATLC.net, CATLC.net. You can also watch Radio Free Los Angeles on Facebook Live at radiofreela.us.
If you'd like to talk with Radio Free Los Angeles, the phone lines are wide open. 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. We're live, local, and here to talk with you. 866-870-KRLA.
All right, back with you. Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, Radio Free Los Angeles. Go to radiofreelosangeles.net, all spelled out, lowercase. Hit that contribution button. Give us that $20 a week that the teachers are doing. And one of these days I can tell you the story about Sally, my metaphorical discussion of the average new teacher out there. But before we get to the Government Grifter of the Week's award, which has really become popular, I'd like to go in just a little bit to Tom Cotton, who spoke last night at the Churchill dinner. What'd you think of his speech?
I thought
Jonathan?
It was great. He talked about citizenship and the definition of citizenship, and James Madison's defining that during the first Continental Congress.
Yes.
I thought it was fascinating. I think he's a very sharp guy.
He is, and this is not a criticism to say what I'm going to say, but the speech that he gave last night is one that we're probably going to hear a lot of around 2023.
Yeah, as I was listening, I thought this guy's going to run for president.
Absolutely, and he should.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, he gave a speech that was in the spirit of the Churchill dinner, and it tended to be focused on the United States' role in the West and the role of the West, period, in advancing the cause of freedom. And he spoke on a topic that you cannot imagine somebody like Dick Durbin or any of these other morons talking about, and that is the idea of statesmanship. Mm-hmm. You could not hear anything like that come out of Mitch McConnell or any of those other people. This man is a scholar, and by the way, he's a guy who is not just talked the talk, he's walked the walk. Believe it or not, he's a double Harvard man, Harvard College and Harvard Law School. But when he went to spend some time at the Claremont Institute, he was first going to go to the Marine Corps. But after 2011, he left the law firm that he was in and joined the Army, spent 5 years, was an infantry officer, and has his combat infantryman badge. This guy's the real deal.
I think 2 tours in Iraq.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So he's been out there. He has led men in battle, and he is entitled to our respect, not only his integrity and bravery, but his intellectual acumen.
Yeah, he's one to watch for sure.
He really is. So he was a great guy, and we're going to hear a lot about him in the future. And if you'd like to learn more about the Claremont Institute, just Google ClaremontInstitute.org or something like that. It is a very exciting organization, particularly the well-known and famous Claremont Review of Books.
And the event was at a very nice place in Newport Beach.
It was, right. And that was the inspiration, I think.
Right.
So, hey, Sully, we got our music, please, Maestro.
And now, live from Glendale, California, it's this week's Government Grifter Awards.
All right.
Featuring city employees from none other than Newport Beach. Sunny, sandy Newport Beach.
Right. Now, is that a gorgeous city? You know, when we
It is gorgeous.
God.
I tell you, Orange County is gorgeous.
It is. You know, we of course live here in one of the loveliest places in America, Pasadena, the San Gabriel Valley. Much in its charm is that it's old and established in the trees. But when you go down to Orange County, that's really cutting edge and very modern. It's beautiful. It's affluent. Oh, is it affluent?
Yeah, it's much cleaner than L.A. County, that's for sure.
It is.
Roads are in better shape.
Oh, yeah. And they've got lots of public employees down there.
Yes.
All right, so who are our nominees tonight, Jonathan?
Oh, well, our first nominee from the city of Newport Beach is the beach maintenance supervisor.
Okay. All right. Now,
sounds like a fun job.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably got to, get plenty of sunscreen.
Right. Well, the job never ends. The water comes in, goes out, right? There's always maintenance to do.
Right. So the beach maintenance supervisor in 2016, total pay and benefits, $153,000 a year.
Oh, jeez.
For hanging out at the beach. Now, I'm sure he's got a job to do. But $153,000 a year.
Yeah. Right.
So that's our first nominee. Our second nominee is the lifeguard captain. Not a sergeant, the lifeguard captain.
The captain. Okay.
So the captain, lifeguard captain, 2016, total pay and benefits, $201,000 a year.
Oh, jeez.
For a lifeguard.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's amazing. So our third nominee is the lifeguard battery chief. 2016 total pay and benefits of $254,000 a year.
Oh, man.
For a lifeguard. Amazing.
That is astonishing.
But so this was a tough one. Do you have the envelope?
Yeah, here. Yeah, since Jonathan isn't here to do the sound effects.
Oh, there you go. There. Yeah. And the winner of this week's Government Grifter Awards goes to the Lifeguard Battery Chief.
Holy man.
Congratulations, Lifeguard Battery Chief. This is Lifeguard Battery Chief's first nomination and first Government Grifter Award.
All right. Yeah, but there's some other big salaries. We can never, this kind of an enterprise down there requires a lot of management, so we can never. I never want to pass over management in those areas because they are ultimately the ones who are responsible for all of this madness. And we want to thank again Marcy Guzman of California Tax Limitation Committee for doing this research and given us the nominees. Right at the top of the heap, we have the city mismanager down there in Newport, making $353,000. Then you got the assistant mismanager, $275,000. The city clerk makes $210,000. Now, city clerks, I've got no idea what they do down there besides receive and distribute official things, but apparently it's very stressful work. So they pick up $210,000 a year for it. Then you get down to the executive assistant city mismanager. That's $135,000, and then the administrative assistant city mismanager, $121,000. So let's add them up. There's $250,000, $525,000, over $800,000 to mismanage the city. Now, why do I call them mismanagers, right? Well, now stay, at the risk of sounding like that angry accountant again, let me give you what their pension liability is. I don't know how many, Marcy, if you're listening out there in the future, let's be sure to put at the bottom the population of the city and the overall number of city employees, so that we have them. Although, hey, you overlooked a grounds worker 2, right? He's not even number 1. Grounds worker 2, $113,000 a year. All right, we're down to 1 minute. The Newport Beach pensions, their admitted number, they're underwater, $275 million, but the real number there, market debt, $866 million.
Wow.
And now you see with those big numbers. Hey, folks, I want to thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you to all the callers. You make it what it is. Go to radiofreelosangeles.net. Jonathan, great being with you.
Yeah, this was fun tonight.
We'll do it again.
We miss Carl, but we had fun.
We do. We'll see you next week. Thank you now.